I think we are live. Oh, this is the wrong stream key again. How? Hold on. Stop. I'll be back. Redoing it. All right. I think we should be live now on the correct stream key. If not, this is just going to be on the same. Gonna need some advice from somebody on how to. What's up? How you doing? What's up, dead folk, Jolly Man? Really gonna end up needing somebody to help me with the YouTube live streaming here. I've made something called stream keys, where I guess it's like the code that you enter into the streaming software that I'm using in order to stream onto YouTube. But for me, what I'm seeing right now is that I'm still under the same title as the previous video, Homegrow Livestream number 2. Even though I created a new stream key for Homegrow Livestream number 3 and I entered it into the software. So I'll get some advice, but for now, it'll still save the videos in the back end and I'll be able to rename them afterwards. Hopefully people are able to find us here. Trouting about? Nice, dude. You should post pictures if you're on like the Reddit or Facebook or Instagram. What's up, Sean? Any of the social medias, post pictures. If it's on Instagram, tag us. On Reddit, post it on our subreddit, and then also post it on our Autoflower subreddit. What's up, Little Mac? Little Mac. All right, guys. So we got a lot to go over tonight. I'm going to start with some weekly updates. First of all, we have a sale going on currently. Quick explanation of why. A, it's MLK Day, so why not? But B, during our Christmas and New Year's sales, we ended up having a date displayed as that indicated the duration of the sale. And we had made that date longer than necessary just so that we could come back later and end it when we wanted to. We didn't realize that date was being displayed to everybody when they clicked on it. So the sale looked like it was going to last longer than it actually did. And we had a lot of people contact us saying, hey, I thought I had more time. I missed the sale. So we were going to run like a second chance sale this weekend. Got a lot of feedback after we kind of talked about that, saying that, hey, could you wait until after the 15th of the month? So 100%, no problem. I completely understand that. And it's also a holiday today. So we figured, why the hell not do it on Monday, Tuesday, end it Wednesday morning. So you have got about 33 hours and 40 minutes to get a multi-pack, build your own multi-pack at 50% off. We are not going to be doing 50% off sales for the foreseeable future. This is the last one. We really cannot keep doing this, but we felt that we had to kind of make up for it because I guess we had something up there that was a little bit misleading. What's up, Joe, Bobby? Good to see you guys. Bobby, is that a picture? Is your profile picture actually you? I don't know if I've ever seen your face before, even though we've talked so many times. I don't think your Facebook picture isn't of you, right? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm tripping. But yeah, Jolly Man's right. Its price is crazy. What, you're getting 12 seeds plus like a few freebies for $50. It's like, yeah, it's painfully good deal for us. For you guys, it's great. For us, it can hurt a little bit. But anyway, okay. So this week, I'm going to go over some Grow Tent updates and put your order in after the sale. Now, bro, how you doing? Let's talk. Why don't you? So here, I'm gonna type again our phone number into the chat here. We'll work with you guys. Like, look, if there was a sale that we're gonna do a makeup sale, you weren't aware of it, you placed an order in between the two sales, and you feel like you made a mistake, message us. We will work with you. We'll give you some store credit for next time. We'll take care of you. We try to take care of everybody. We have a lot of high volume of people messaging us sometimes. So if we don't get to you, just shoot us a reminder or something. It's not because we're ignoring you on purpose. It's just always we want to take care of you. So if you need to be a little persistent on a particular day, if you have an issue, send a couple texts, whatever it is, we will always get to you. And I'm going to type the phone number into the chat. It's 405-237-9524, text only. Shoot us a text message And if you've got something to ask us about, or something to take care of, we want to take care of you. We want, because honestly, I'll be 100% straight up with you. The better we take care of you, the more likely you are to come back. Like, that's how we see it. Is if we are able to leave somebody happy, even if we lose money a little bit on the first one or whatever, it builds trust between us and our customers, and we want to do that. So you can leave drunk late night voicemails. I'm just not going to hear them. So yeah, thank you, Jolly. So yeah, but it'd be cool if you message us how you doing, and I know we're good, but we'd like to take care of you, so please do. If not, I'm going to track you down. I'll find you, and I'll give you the store credit. Fruit Fuel, some of the terpiest stuff I've had in a while. Hell yeah, try it. Nice, that's awesome. Fruit Fuel's really great one. Autopotamus just harvested a Fruit Fuel. That pheno wasn't my favorite that he ended up with, but it definitely has got some amazing ones. It's well on its way too to be. We got a Fruit Fuel F3 that we sent out as freebies like a long time ago. I think it's even better than the BX1, honestly. I don't know how much we have of that left. Maybe we could do a small drop of it. Maybe we'll do a Fruit Fuel F3 small drop, little drop. So eye contact with what, me? But looking at the camera? Is that weird? Okay, so tent updates. All right, so this week we have a lot going on. So we have seeds germinating. We have seeds in seed starting plugs. We have seeds in those cups. We had to wait a little longer to get them in, but they're finally in. So those are going to be germinated in the next few days. And we are doing a few different things here. So we've got like six strains, I think, germinating in seed starting plugs in the tent right now. The light is off just because it was messing with the camera, so I turned that off just for the live. But we have lights on in the tent. We have seeds germinating in there in seed starting plugs, and the plugs that we're using, and you might have heard me talk about our soil sausage plugs previously on other videos. They're from I'm gonna say OBC Northwest is the company that we usually bought them from, in huge pallets of thousands of them. And we have those at the facility still. We have got plenty of them left. But I didn't want to use anything from the commercial facility. I really wanted to start this grow from scratch, just like anybody would if they were doing some, building of a new grow system here. So I did the same thing, and I have mentioned iHort and their seed starting plugs before. I have personal experience with their iHort XL plugs, EXC, not XL, but XL, like to excel at something. And local grow store had the iHort Q plugs, which are larger, I believe maybe a slightly firmer texture there on the plug, and these are made of cocoa, peat moss, and then coconut shell biochar. So they're burning up some coconut, and they're adding that in there. They have a really nice, I think there's a couple in here I can show you. Yeah, a couple left here. So these are pretty big ones. And they've got like a pretty good, nice spongy texture, and they're real easy to rip. I don't know if you guys can, maybe I'll move this closer to the camera so you can see it. Hold on. There's a delay, so I can't see if it's focusing, but okay, well, whatever. Nice spongy texture to them. They come kind of wet, but you still need to wet them down more. And they fit well in the tray that we got, but they make smaller ones than this. And we ended up actually, I can demonstrate what we did. And in a posted video, you're going to see this. We're in the editing process right now for a lot of videos. So what we ended up doing was just trimming this down right about there. So you can just kind of cut the bottom off of it. And then on our seed starting tray, you know what? Hold on one sec. Let me see. I can probably I'll grab the seed starting tray. We have some extra pieces. Okay. So here's the seed starting tray that we ended up using for this particular thing, similar to the ones that we used at the facility. And then, these go into another tray that catches water. So So we trimmed the bottom off of those seed starting plugs, and then I will demonstrate what we did with these trays as well. So you can kind of just cut the... That's probably a really obnoxious sound right in front of the microphone, huh? We did this a lot more successfully when I wasn't live, but cut the bottom out of the seed starting tray, and then your plug goes right in there, and now your roots are not going to circle around the bottom of this tray, and you've got some nice space there, and as long as you're keeping some good moisture in the tray, and you're not allowing that bottom to dry out, then you have a really nice little solution there, and it's also real easy if you needed to push out and pop out your plug without damaging the roots. So this is what we ended up doing for some of the seed starting. So just kind of wanted to show you guys. These are probably available at most grow stores. You're not gonna have a hard time finding this size 50 cell tray. And then I think this is not something that we've done before, but based on all of our experience, I think that missing bottom in combination with the texture and makeup of these plugs will do really well for us. So we're going to find out, though. We're going to find out. I've used the iHort XL plugs, and they do a great job. They actually help distribute the roots significantly better than a lot of other seed starting plugs I've noticed. A lot of seed starting plugs, you'll end up with a really strong taproot that just kind of comes straight out the bottom, hits whatever the bottom of the container is, and circles. So it's a larger version of what we've used before, but we're expecting some nice distribution of lateral roots. And then we're also expecting not to see any circling at the bottom. And then even if the reason, that we one of the main reasons that we cut the bottoms out, the little hole. So if these were seed starting trays that had one big hole in the center, I don't know that I even would have really thought I need to cut the bottom out. But these seed starting trays have little slits in them. And that can be a problem, especially because they're a little bit sharp. So when you go to pull, what's up, Nova? When you go to pull your seedling in the plug out, when the roots have passed through those little holes and you go to pull it upwards, you can easily break your roots pulling them up through those holes. So yours have smile face holes in the bottom. Dead? Yeah. So our solution to that is to cut the bottom out, make sure we maintain some good moisture in the bottom of the tray, and now we've got a nice empty hole at the bottom for the roots to just kind of pass into as they need to. But it solves a problem. So I'm pretty happy with that solution for seed starting. The other thing that we're going to do is you guys have seen the 3 cups where we put 1% water, 1% and 3% hydrogen peroxide. Seeds are in those right now, and I think some of them have already germinated in the last 24 hours. And not getting the same results as the study, by the way. We're going to post a whole video on that with our results, and I'm going to post some pictures on Instagram and Facebook of the progress there. But we're not getting the same results as that study got with our 1% hydrogen peroxide and the speed of germination. And I know that the batch of seeds that we used is a really nice, fresh, quick germinating batch. So I'm interested to see where that ends up. But yeah, going a little slower than I had anticipated. So let's see. We got a bunch of different strains right now that have already been, planted or are germinating to go into the tent. We have more that are going to go in, more that are going to go in. We're going to do a little bit of a staggered planting so that we have some plants that mature maybe a week or two prior to the others. So that way, when we want to collect pollen from the earlier batch, we still have plants that are ready to be pollinated once we have that pollen collected, because we are making seeds here. So when we do go to transplant them, they are going to go into some of these, not all of them, but some of them will go into these, which are 4-inch plastic pots, square pots. I really like square pots because you get much more utilization of the space when they're kind of butt up against each other, at least initially. So, round pot, you end up with those empty spaces in between. And then Yeah, these are actually really nice. These were, I think, like 15 cents each at a local grocery store. So I've got a bunch of these, and we are going to pack. You can't, I'm holding that right off camera, too. You can't see what I'm talking about. So I am going to pack the tent full of these. I'm just going to get as many plants as I reasonably can in there. And I'm going to post all the numbers and pictures of all that kind of stuff of what we end up actually doing. But we are going to fit as many as we can without overcrowding and while still maintaining good airflow. And then we will thin the herd out as we go. So plants that are that have the traits that we're looking for, which, rapidly vegging, the structure is good, the lateral branching is good, the dominant apical meristem, the top branch, the dominant branch isn't overly dominant, and we have some lower branches that are at least competing a little bit. Probably top some of them just for fun and to kind of see how they react, but yeah, we're going to do a lot of little back and forth experiments, A/B tests on these. But yeah, so we're looking for vegetative strains. You rub the stem, you smell, your fingers rub the stem, and you get an idea for where the direction that plant is going as far as terpene profiles. You can really get a nice idea for like citrusy or funky. You can get some real early kind of like notes, even though there's no trichomes. I don't know if really there's many terpenes that have developed on that stem yet, but there's just from experience. It's one of those things you have to do a bunch of times, and you can kind of see where the plant's going as far as terpene profile. So that is part of what we're doing next, which is pack it full of vegging plants, thin them out, get rid of ones that we don't like, ones that are too slow, ones that got damaged early or that were susceptible to damage, ones that can't handle the nutrients. If we see some that start to burn a little bit from the nutrient load that we're using, it's gone. It's going to die. And you will see every moment of it. You'll see us kill them. You'll see the nice big piles of dead plants like we posted from the facility, just a smaller version. And throughout the process, so each of these pots will have one seedling, and each of these, there'll be groups of strains. So let's just say I'm planting some Granite Haze F6. That's one of the strains going into the tent. So the plan for those is possibly some crosses, and also we will be making Granite Haze F7 in a little mini version here. So it would be the alphanumeric code that would go onto, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. Let's call it 10 pots. The alphanumeric code that would go onto these pots would be GHF601, GHF602, GHF603, and so on. So each of the plants has its own code and its own little identity so that we can keep track of what plants are alive, what plants are dead, which plants we like, and we can remember them. We can take notes on them. You guys are going to get to see us record some notes on what we like about them every week. You're going to get to see, okay, like, oh, GHF605 is the best one, and you get to see how it progresses in the notes that we do. Probably won't put those on YouTube, but we'll put them somewhere where they're accessible to you guys and you can see the process. Little Mac, yeah, no, it's a pretty standard way to do things, but you get to see insight into our decision-making process. A lot of breeders do this kind of thing a similar way, and it starts to get a little different for us as we get further into it, but a lot of this stuff is really standard breeding practices, and the only things that really differ are what we're looking for. So you guys will get to see that. Sean, currently no Blappleberry, but we still have a second batch of plants that are going to be put into the tent. So we might do some Blappleberry. But regardless, the next step after that, they're going to start to flower around day 30. Around day 30 is when you see significant transition into the plants really starting to produce flowers. And that's when we start to look for how fast are the flowers maturing? How quickly is the plant still growing as it begins to flower? Are there trichomes developing really early, or are there not? The ones that develop trichomes really early tend to be the frostiest ones. Of the ones that do develop those trichomes really early, do we have any that we really like the terpene profile of, that early terpene profile? Are there any that are just standout, knockout winners? So those are the next things. Is it continuing to maintain its ability to handle the nutrients that we're giving it as we ramp those up? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is creating that feeding schedule for those plants. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention is our mycorrhiza that we're going to use. So once the seeds have germinated, the next thing that's going to happen is they're going to get put into some soil or medium. And he got the idea from Chad Westport. Is that the Chad that I know? Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, so we're going to be using Bigfoot mycorrhiza when we transplant our seedlings into the Pro Mix that we're using. And we also, here, I'll get that a little closer so you guys can see it. Dead folk, yeah, we might do some light stress, we might cull some stuff out, thin some stuff out if we do see some light stress. But what's up, Raymond? How you doing? Good to see you. But depending on, the factors of everything that might factor into what we kill, it might not, depending on how tall they get, how intense we have our lights on and all that good stuff. So, Bigfoot mycorrhiza is a local company, actually. They're in Grants Pass, Oregon, which is 10 minutes away from me here. So I like to support local companies. I actually have interacted with the guys who own this company a long time ago. Some of you guys here might remember I had a guy on a Facebook Live named Evan from Southern Oregon Bokashi. I know we've talked about the Bokashi on the lives here. He's the owner of that company, and he did a live stream with me at the speedrun facility. And he introduced me to the Bigfoot guys. I had been very aware of this brand of mycorrhiza previously, but I just, if I'm going to choose one to kind of openly use, I don't think there's really any better choice that I can make than some next door neighbors. So it's got, how many? 4 strains of endomycorrhiza, or it's also called arbuscular mycorrhiza. The other type of mycorrhiza we call ectomycorrhiza, which is only symbiotic with certain species of woody plants. And cannabis is an herbaceous plant, not a woody plant. So ectomycorrhiza, and there are products out there that are marketed to the cannabis industry that have ectomycorrhiza in them. And from my understanding, unless somebody kind of lets me know that they have another function that I'm unaware of, it's just a waste of money to put them in there because they cannot have any symbiotic relationship with the cannabis plant. Endo is the one that you want, or arbuscular. Arbuscular is the other name for the one that you want. So this is a soluble mycorrhiza. It's meant to use to water in or dip your seedlings as they go into your medium. So some of them will end up getting watered in with this. Some of them will end up getting dipped in a solution of this. And that's how we're going to use the mycorrhiza. And then the other thing is I'm going to take some of the Pro Mix that we're going to be using, and I'm going to add in a percentage of our native soil here. We have really great soil in our area where I am right now. We are right on the Rogue River. It's a very large river in Oregon. We are at the bottom of a very large hill and like a almost, mountain-like. So in that little crevice, not crevice is not the right word for it, but where the hill meets the river, you end up with a really rich, really nice native soil. We have fruit plants, fruit trees, a ton of grapes. I'll post some pictures actually of all the fruit that we grow on this property, and it is astonishing. We had kiwis this year. The kiwis just blew up. We had hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands of kiwis growing on those vines. And then we, a ton of grapes, more grapes. We made grape juice. We did all sorts of stuff, more grapes than we ever could have eaten. We had apples. We got strawberries all over the place. Really awesome climate and soil. Didn't have to fertilize really, like just really, really great place for fruit trees. So with all that in mind, I'm going to be adding some native soil to some of the Pro Mix to cut in some organic material. When I did the Facebook live stream earlier tonight, somebody asked me a question that was a very good question. Are you not worried about bringing bugs into your grow tent? We are going to treat the soil with insecticides. As we do it, you guys, I'll show you exactly what the application rate and the type of insecticides that we're using to prevent the eventuality, really, of some bugs coming in on that soil. So, it's definitely a little bit of a risk, but I really want to do a side-by-side of a pro mix medium with some significant organic material mixed in. And this Bigfoot mycorrhiza also has worm castings, humic acid, and some biochar in it as well. So those worm castings provide, and even not the humic, but the worm castings provide some organic material for the mycorrhiza and other microbes that we will be adding later as well. So I really want to do a side-by-side of just, same amount of microbes, same strain, same soil volume, same everything, except some organic material for those microbes to feed on and convert into some usable ions, usable materials for the plant, and then some where they're really just in a pro mix medium with some microbe products added in, which some of them do have some organic material in them anyway. So we're gonna get to see that side by side. I suspect in a side by side in an environment like this that we might see that the plants with the organic material in the medium get a little frostier, I think. I think that's my prediction. I'm throwing that out there right now. I think we add some organic material into that pro mix and we're going to see some frostier plants. So we'll see. Okay. Tonight, what time is it? We're at 16 minutes. Not too bad. I mentioned the sale, went over the updates for the tent. Seeds are germinating. You'll see pictures of those coming out this week. Went over the seed starting plug. So now I want to talk about creating a feeding schedule for a grow. We talked about equipment. We talked about germination. Now we're moving into the phase where we're going to transplant them, and I want to talk about what we're going to feed them. So tonight, I just chose an example of a nutrient line that a lot of people know. There's no real reason I chose it other than it's probably up there with the most popular nutrient lines out. General Hydroponics Flora nutrient line. They have a Flora Grow, a Flora Bloom, and a Flora Micro. So the reason that I chose that one is because it's simple, it's common, and it's a good 3-part nutrient system to demonstrate with. The one thing, I've just realized that I did not add to this document ahead of time is the calcium. So let me pull up I know General Hydro, I think, is 5% calcium, but I want to, or CalMag, I think it's 5% calcium, 1% magnesium. Pardon the dead air for a second. This is what happens when you don't properly prepare. 5%, 1%. Yeah, those might be the only two. There might be some iron in there, but for right now, we're just going to assume that it's 5% calcium, 1% nitrogen. So I'm going to add that to my document here real quick. And then I'll also switch over to it so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So what we're actually, like, I know you guys have heard me talk about ppms probably before, and you've probably heard me talk about calculating ppms, which is different from using a ppm meter or a TDS meter. We're not talking about the parts per million that you're going to be able to track with one of your pens. We're talking about the actual ppms that you can calculate directly of the elements that are in there according to the guaranteed analysis. So we're going to get into that right now, and I'm going to pop over to this document so that you guys can see what it is that we're looking at. Hopefully we maintain audio and all that good stuff. So I'll keep an eye on the chat, make sure that you guys can hear me. But also want to keep this. Oh man, see, yeah, you know what? Last time when I watched this video back, or like the last video back, it was pretty clear that what I'm seeing right now on the live view that I have, and I can't do that. I gotta stretch it back out. The live view that I have is completely like grainy. It's like there's like 5 pixels on the entire screen. But when I watched it back, it was actually not as bad. So if you guys are able to tell me what you're seeing, it'll help me make decisions as to what I put on the screen. So if you can see what we're looking at here, if you can read any of it, looks good on your end, Matt. Okay. If it looks good for you guys, then I'm gonna continue. So creating an autoflower nutrient schedule. That's what we're talking about tonight. And this is the Flora Bloom, Flora Grow, Flora Micro. These are the products from General Hydroponics. This is probably their most popular line, probably one of the most popular lines, not probably, definitely, in all of the cannabis industry and in the home growing industry as well. The Flora series. So you can see here, they've got a Flora Micro, which is 501. You've got your Flora Grow, which is 216. And you've got your Flora Bloom, which is 054. So I also have here loaded up the feeding schedule that they recommend. And we're going to go, you know, I'm not going to calculate all these other things, but we're going to start with just the base nutrient line here. Can you see my cursor? Let me move you guys over so I can see you. Let me know if you can see my cursor, what I'm pointing to with the cursor. Regardless, we're going to go with the base nutrient portion of this here, which is just the micro, grow, bloom. And I'm also going to calculate some CalMag numbers as well. So you can see the cursor, Matt. Awesome. Yeah, so it looks like here at the seedling stage, they're recommending 2.5 of all 3. And then in their early growth stage, it's going to bump up to 7.5 milliliters of the Flora, 10 milliliters of the micro, 10 milliliters of the grow, and 5 milliliters of the bloom. Then it goes back to even at the transition. This is for photo period, obviously. And you know, so we'll follow that along as we go. But let's go ahead and start with our formula. Go back to me for a second. Hold on here. I will get better at this, I promise. Okay. So basically, the idea behind calculating parts per million is that your guaranteed analysis, which is what we were just looking at for that Flora series, tells you the percentage of each, of this bottle of liquid, what percent of it is nitrogen, what percent of it is phosphorus, what percent of it is potassium. So given that number, and given that it's a liquid, you know that, let's say, if I go ahead and take a gallon of water, and I put, what was there, 2.5 milliliters, right? So 1 gallon of water, and I put 2.5 milliliters of their Flora Micro in. We're gonna start with an easier one. We're gonna start with the Flora Grow. So 2.5 milliliters of the Flora Grow. That means you know that if you put 2.5 milliliters divided by the number of milliliters in a gallon, you can identify what percent of that gallon is actually that liquid, right? So we'll start there. 1 gallon, and I'll go back over to our document here so that you guys can follow along. For our purposes, we're just going to do this. So 1 gallon of water equals 3785 milliliters. Remember that number. It's important. You should always know it. As you get in more into the scientific part of growing, you should maintain that number in your head. And then we know that the Flora Grow is, at the beginning at least, 2.5 milliliters. So let's go ahead and do 2.5 milliliters divided by 3785 milliliters to determine, oops, keep doing that, what percent when you add 2.5 milliliters to that 3785, and that's a final volume. So I should definitely clarify. We're talking about adding in, usually the way that we do it is add in a half gallon of water, you add your 2.5 milliliters, and then you fill it up to the exact gallon line. You don't take a full gallon of water and then divide or add more liquid to it, because then it would be 3787.5. You wanted the final volume to be 3785. So I just wanted to clarify that and make that clear. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that division. Got my calculator here. I'm doing this with you guys. I feel like if I had prepared all this stuff and just blasted through it, it wouldn't make as much sense to you. So we're going to go ahead and do the math together. 2.5 divided by 3785. So now we've got 0.00066. Let's stop there. Okay, so now we've got that number, and then we know, so we'll maintain that number for a minute. So we know 1 gallon equals 3785, and then also 1% of 1 million equals, keep doing that, 10,000. Okay, so this is just another piece of math that's important to remember here. 1% of 1 million is 10,000. That's just basic math right there. So then you use that 10,000 because 1%, I hate this keyboard, guys. I've got this like split ergonomic keyboard. It drives me crazy. So 1% means that 1% is equal to 10,000 parts per million. So does that make sense here? Let me go back to the chat to make sure you guys are following why 1% equals 10,000 parts per million. Let me go back to my face here. Okay, so are you guys following me on that? So if 1% of 1 million equals 10,000, then in parts per million, 1% is 10,000 parts of that million. If we're following, if you're losing me at any point, please do not hesitate to make a comment, because somebody in the future watching this video might not be following the same way that you missed, or I didn't communicate it well enough to you. So yeah, this also is easier if you're good at math, but once it kind of comes together at the end and you see the formula at the end, it coalesces a little bit. Coagulates. What's the right word I'm looking for? So anyway, okay. So I'm going to pop back over to the document here, and we can continue. All right. So we know now that we've got in the Flora Grow, we had, let's go actually down to the guaranteed analysis. Let's start with nitrogen. You know what we can do? We'll put the whole thing up there. So let's do this. N equals 2%. No, I got to remember 216. 2%. Okay. P equals 1%. K equals 6%. Okay, so we've got our NPK there. We're going to start with that. So if 1% equals 10,000 parts per million, then 2% equals 20,000 parts per million. So we'll do let's do ppm of nitrogen. So we've got, let me just bump that down here. 2%, which is 20,000 parts per million. So 20,000 ppm times our percentage number, so times 0.00066. Let's get that 20,000 times 0.00066. Okay, so that gives us 132. That's not. Oh, I typed in, I missed a zero, sorry. 0.0, I put 2 zeros. 0.00, I was like, that is way too high. Okay, so times 0.00066 equals 13.2 ppm nitrogen. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the chat here. Make sure you guys are following me still. Let me switch back over to me. I'm gonna take this as slow as we need to. And again, I really encourage you guys to ask questions if this is all just like gibberish to you. Okay, so what I just did was, I'm going to summarize that one because that's the formula, is you got your percent of your nutrient that is nitrogen, which is 2%. We've established that, yes, Sean, I will make the document available. We've established that 1% equals 10,000 parts per million, so 2% equals 20,000 parts per million, and then we've established that we're adding 2.5 milliliters into a full gallon, so if you divide 2.5 by 3785, you get that 0.00066 number. You multiply that by your actual parts per million total in the flora grow, the 2%, and that gives you your actual parts per million in solution of nitrogen when you add 2.5 milliliters of that liquid to your gallon of water. Okay, so we could kind of go through and do the next one. If you guys are sitting there and you want to do the math with me, so I'm not like giving you dead air, I would encourage it for sure. But next we're gonna hit phosphorus. So the nice thing is that it gets easier now because we have the formula. So now we know that if 13.2 ppms is here, let me give you back the document. If 13.2 ppms is 2%, then all you have to do is cut that in half in order to calculate the 1%. So now we've got, here, we'll do this. We'll bump this down here. So we can easily calculate that this would be 6.51, right? So we've got, all right, let's do this. 6.51 ppm. I'm just fucking abbreviate everything. P, and that's gonna make it easier. Okay, you guys understand how I reached 6.52 because it's half of 6.51. Is it 6.6? Sorry, what did I do? 6.52. I don't know why I said that. 6.6. Sorry. Okay, so we've got half of, yeah, sorry guys, I'm fucking, the one thing I'm really bad at is like simple head math. Like I can conceptualize like the whole formula and get to the right place, but like if I need to quickly divide 13.2 in half, I'm terrible at it for some reason. All right, so it's like an ADD trait. You understand, yes, why it was easy to get to that because it was just times 0.5 to get to 1%. Okay, so now we know that soluble potash, or that's potassium, is 6%, which is 2 times 3 or 6, 1 times 6. So I can take either of these two numbers here and multiply them by the correct number to get to 6%. So we'll just do it off the n number again. So it'd be 13.2 times 3, which I will use a calculator moving forward because I don't want to embarrass myself. So we've got 39.6. So we got 39.6 ppm of potassium. All right, so we just calculated our NPK of the Flora Grow added at 2.5 milliliters per gallon. So at 2.5 milliliters per gallon, why is it doing that? At 2.5 milliliters per gallon, and I'll put at the front here, we'll do Flora Grow. All right, so next one is we're going to do the Flora Bloom next, and we're adding it at the same application rate. So we can go ahead and use that 6.6 ppm number there, because we know that if something is 1% and you're of anything, and you're adding it at a rate of 2.5 milliliters per gallon, now we can use the 5% of the phosphorus in this Flora Bloom is just that number times 5. So 6.6 times 5, 33. So now we go, let's start at the top here. We've got Flora Bloom. We've got, what did I say, 30, 6.6, 33. 33 ppm phosphorus, and then times 4, so we do 6.6 times 4, 26.4, we got 26.4 ppm, what was that, potassium? Yeah. Potassium, and then 1.5, so we'll just, I think I missed the magnesium on the Flora Grow, so I'll go back and do that real quick, but it's just half of the 6.6, so it's 3.3, so here. Let's do this. 3.3. And then we're going to do 6.6 times 1.5 to get to, which is 9.9 ppm of magnesium in the bloom. Okay, so now we've got that, and there's some sulfur too, which is going to be 6.6 ppm. Just because it's the same as the 1% from the last one. So hope you guys are following there. Oops. Okay. This is probably a good time to mention, we're talking about nutrients. Sulfur, wait, sorry. What did I put wrong? Ooh, shit. Nope, don't do that. Wait, what was supposed to be 39.6? Oh, yeah. Did I mess something up? Nova? Did I? You do it any way you want, but you can see where the math is coming from. I guess this is just the way that I choose to do it. But I'm pretty sure I got all these right. If I messed it up, somebody will tell me, I guess. But here, let me switch back to myself here. Okay, so sulfur is kind of a forgotten nutrient. And one of the things that is important to remember, I'm actually filming currently a series, I think we're going to call it All About Nutrients, where I'm doing a video on each of the essential nutrients for plants. And there are 16 really essential nutrients for plants. 3 of them are hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon, which I'm going to do all those in one video because one comes from water, 2 of them come from water, and 1 of them comes from your carbon dioxide in the air. So those 3 things kind of come from the environment and just based on the fact that you're watering them. And also the roots take in oxygen as the plant dries out. But then, weird, I'm not seeing any chats coming through. if you guys are talking, then I might be missing it. Oh, okay. Now I can see the chats. Okay. Okay. Law of minimum growth based on the limiting factor, all nutrients, all essential. So there are some nutrients that are not essential, like silicone, silica. That is not going to limit the growth of your plant. And really, limit the growth of your plant is kind of a broad phrase. But regardless, there are things like cobalt, silica is one of them, or silicon is one of them. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Regardless, the ones that are important are the 13 essential nutrients. The first one I'm doing a video on is chlorine, because I think that is the one that has the most common misconceptions about it, and people have a really poor understanding about it. It gets mentioned a lot, so I'm going to start with that one. But then each of them have their own unique purpose, and sulfur is a really important nutrient. Now, usually you never have to think about it because the vast majority of nutrient programs and nutrient lines use magnesium sulfate. Magnesium sulfate has 4 sulfate molecules for its MgSO4. So that means for every magnesium molecule, there are 4 sulfate molecules, which is sulfur and 4 oxygen molecules. So once that sulfate breaks down and the plant can access that sulfur in the sulfate from the magnesium sulfate, you end up giving your plant a higher quantity of sulfur than you are of magnesium when you use magnesium sulfate. So generally, I'm starting to lose my voice because I did a YouTube stream also. Generally, it's not something you have to think about too much because it's almost always there. However, there are other sources of magnesium. Not all nutrient lines use magnesium sulfate. So if you happen to know, if you read the ingredients on your guaranteed analysis, the derived from, if you notice that there is no sulfate, no magnesium sulfate in there, could be magnesium citrate, could be a different one, you might want to consider ensuring that you have a source of sulfur because it's very important. So I'm gonna go hit some comments here and kind of, now that we just calculated those two briefly, I'm gonna come back and see if there's anything that I missed. And if I'm not answering your question, then ask it again because I probably didn't see it. Okay, so Sean said, so potassium is most important at that stage for roots, right? I never understood why the potassium was so high. Yeah. So potassium is extremely important for root zone development. It's important for shoot development as well. Nitrogen and potassium work together in the early growth stages, in the mid growth stages, and at the end. Those two are extraordinarily important. Phosphorus, there is an extreme misconception about phosphorus in the cannabis industry, which we are starting to see it lessen. But a lot of nutrient brands, I'll throw them under the bus a little bit. Advanced Nutrients is one of them, where you have phosphorus numbers in flower that are extraordinarily high. There's demonstrate, like I should have had these studies ready, honestly. Maybe I could pull them up at the end if you guys want to see it, if you're interested in seeing them. Otherwise, I'll post them on Facebook or something. But there have been a good amount of studies that have established that really all a plant needs is about 60 to 90 parts per million of phosphorus, even in flower. With the full auto, I think we end up going up to like 105 or so parts per million of phosphorus at the highest point, just to ensure, because that extra 10 parts per million isn't going to hurt anything, but it ensures that if your absorption isn't quite high enough, then you're at the higher end of what's in there. But they've established that phosphorus needs to be less than half of what nitrogen and potassium need to be pretty much all the time. And then magnesium and phosphorus actually are pretty on similar levels of how much the plant requires as far as ppm inputs. And then calcium is up there with potassium and nitrogen. Potassium is very important for a lot of different things, but definitely root development. Nitrogen is very important for shoot development and vegetative vigor and growth. And then calcium is extremely important for structural stability and stress resistance within the plant. You guys might have, you might know that silica is attributed to giving plants a better, physical structural stability. And the way that works is it deposits silica into the plant cells, and it creates like a hard hold on one sec. This is Paul from Multiverse Beans. I want to make sure. I'm supposed to call him at 8:30, so okay. So it deposits silicon into the cells, actually, and it creates like, what's the word I'm looking for? Silicified plant cells, which are harder. The calcium is actually part of the structural stability of the actual cell wall. So two different ways of attributing to the plant's stability. And they are both very important. Calcium is very important. Silica, it's nice to have, is how I'll phrase it. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I see nutrient companies sleep on calcium. I feel like 1,000%, Sean. We're gonna get to that. What they recommend, how much calcium they recommend with General Hydro. What we're at. How long have I been streaming here? I never know where to actually see that. Let me see if it's over here. Is it at the bottom? 56 minutes. Okay, I'll go a little long so we can cover stuff. This is going to have to be a part 2 to this, maybe. Silica helps replace the calcium need in new plants' growth. It's just about allocating its energy and carbon resources. Dead folk, I wouldn't say that I agree with that. I would say silica it doesn't replace the need for calcium. Calcium does so much other stuff other than it's transport within the plant and communication within the plant and stress resistance. It does so much. You want to make sure that you're providing the proper amount of calcium, no matter how you do it. You want to provide the proper amount, which is pretty much equivalent with nitrogen. So, yeah, dead folk, it supplements for plant stability. It adds to plant stability. Calcium is responsible for plant stability, and it's like calcium's the president and silica is like, vice president that you never really see on TV and is working with reducing obesity in schools, which is great. It's awesome. It's great to have. We don't want obesity in schools. If he wasn't doing it, I wouldn't really notice. So that's what we're kind of talking about here. Phosphorus for energy transfer helps move that for roots and shoots, and also helps form oils, sugars, and starches. Absolutely. 1,000%, Nova, you're 100% right. But the amount of phosphorus that you require for your plant to be well supplied with phosphorus is not hundreds of parts per million, 400 parts per million I've seen before on some advanced nutrient feeding schedules. Really, you need less than 100, about a quarter of what some of these nutrient lines provide. And that's where I'm taking issue with. Not the fact that you don't need it or anything, but calcium is just as a signal, right? Did I mention? Yeah. I said communication. Signal is pretty much what I meant. So, yes, calcium, it's very important. Very, very important. Just as important as it's it should really be nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium. Like those should be your macro important nutrients that are on the front of the bottle. And then magnesium and sulfur can go, on the other side of the bottle, whatever. But really, I think calcium needs to be mentioned higher up and more frequently when we're talking about macronutrients, because it is very much a macronutrient. And so is magnesium, so is sulfur, and so is phosphorus and potassium. But the bottom line is the one you don't got to really worry about, sulfur, because it's tagging along with your magnesium sulfate. So as long as your magnesium level is right and you're using magnesium sulfate, your sulfur is going to be okay. And then your potassium, phosphorus. I mean, we're about to go over what you're looking for. So carbon, calcium, potassium seem to be tog dogs to me. What does that mean? So carbon is not something that we actively add. Carbon is just like what life forms are composed of, and the plant extracts carbon from the environment, from the carbon dioxide that it top dogs. Got it. Okay. Yes. Carbon, water, oxygen are the three top dog that sit together in their own little area. And then I would say the other three, in my mind, are nitrogen, potassium, calcium. And then you could definitely include phosphorus in there if you want, or you could include it over with magnesium because you need similar amounts of them. But like when I'm grouping stuff together in my groups in my head, that's how I kind of think of it. So we're gonna run out of time. I don't know that I can go much past an hour tonight because I do have a scheduled call, but I do have a little bit more time to go. So let's kind of get back to the document here, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. All right. So let's find that window. So let's just you know what, we can do it. If you guys want a part 2, we'll do a part 2. Did I do this backwards? Whoops. 3.3. Okay, so we've got these two, and they're only the macronutrients because the micros are in the micro additive, and that's going to take longer because it's a lot of stuff. But let's just start here. So we know that this is what we're providing from the Flora Grow and Flora Bloom. And let's actually pop up to, where's the micro? Let's pop over to the micro because they told you to add 2 point. Let's do the macronutrients in the micro real quick. So 5%. So we know that that's the same as the phosphate in Flora Bloom, which would be Flora Bloom P. So 33 ppm of nitrogens. Let's just do micro. Flora micro. I'll get a new keyboard, guys, that I can actually type on. I feel like a retard typing on this thing. So I say 33 ppm phosphorus, or 33 ppm nitrogen, I mean. And then we've got 1%, so 6.6 ppm K. And then we've got 5 of calcium, so it's also 33. All right, so oops. Okay, so here's all of our macronutrients if we were just adding those 3 things. And I guess I could pop down and take a look at their CalMag. What are they recommending here? CaliMagic. They're recommending none for the first seedling stage, which I don't know exactly how long that they're calling that for autoflowers, but regardless, their CaliMagic is 5% calcium and 1% magnesium. So we'll calculate that in, I guess. Let's say we added 2.5. Let's just be generous. So I'll put it down on this page. CaliMagic. So that would be 33 more ppms of calcium and 6.6 more ppms of magnesium. And we're not going to go through and calculate. We're not going to add all these up and figure out our total ppm, because when you look at it on a ppm meter, when you use one of those TDS meters and you're looking at the reading that it's giving you, it has nothing really to do with the parts per million of only those elements. There are other dissolved solids that occur when you dissolve nutrient salts into your water. So that's testing. It's giving you based on the electrical activity. If you're doing electrical conductivity, if you're using an EC meter, a TDS meter, we don't care in this circumstance about calculating total ppm. That's really not what we're going after here. What we are going after is comparing our numbers here. So what the next thing that we need to do is we add total nitrogen up. So if we're adding 2.5 milliliters per gallon, let's go ahead and add all these together and figure out at the early growth stage how much nitrogen we're providing. So we have 13.2 from the flora grow. We have 33 from the micro, and that was it. Was there, wait. Was there not nitrogen in the CalMag? Regardless, okay, whatever. It's not that important. Okay, so total, we have 46 parts per million at the early growth stage. Where should I write that? I'll write it at the bottom here. Or let's write seedling stage. Let's be fair. And what did I say? 46.2. 46.2. P is going to be, I'll put spaces here so it's easier to read. Phosphorus, we've got 6.6 plus 33. 6.6 plus 33. Plus 39.3. 39 point, oops, did it again. 39.3. God, can't type. Okay, and then we'll do this, and we've got potassium. We've got 6.6 plus 26.4 plus 39.6, so we have got 6.6 plus 39.6 plus, what I say, 26.4. 26.4, 72.6. 72.6. Oh, no, not right, ppm. We understand what we're talking about here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this because we recommend, at Speedrun Seeds, we recommend feeding from when you first see your true leaves. So don't feed when you only see cotyledons. Feed when you see your first serrated leaves kind of starting to flatten out. They don't need to have multiple leaflets. They can just be the single serrated leaves. But once they start to once they're not pointing straight upwards anymore, they start to kind of flatten out like that, then we recommend starting to feed. And not only do we recommend starting to feed, we recommend feeding essentially at full strength. Like we cut back a little bit, but compared to other nutrient lines, we're at full strength. For us, we're not at the height of what we will be at, but you could call it full strength nutrients. There goes my. Never mind. So let's take a look at what you guys have been talking about while I was gone and see if I missed anything important here. Most CalMag products have nitrogen. Yes, they do because they use calcium nitrate. Calcium nitrate is the most available form of, is one of the cheapest, most common, easy to deal with, most available forms of calcium. And when it is dissolved into water, the calcium ions and the nitrogen ions separate, and you end up with available calcium and available nitrogen. Or nitrate, which is, how the plant's able to, it has to process it later, but it can take nitrogen. So, waste product from World War II, is it? That's interesting. And then if you're looking at other types of calcium, so I've seen recently, I was looking at, I think it was Down to Earth liquid line. I'm pretty sure their liquid CalMag uses calcium chloride. If somebody wants to verify that for me, if you want to go, because I'm going to talk through this, but just assume it uses calcium chloride, because I'm pretty sure that's the one that I remember using calcium chloride. Calcium chloride, there's something I haven't ever really talked about, and it's salinity. Different nutrient salts contribute higher or more or less salinity to your overall nutrient solution. Certain nutrients, really a lot of organic nutrients, provide very little. In this case, calcium chloride is one of the highest salinity forms of calcium that you can possibly use. And it's what you spray on the sidewalk to melt ice. Calcium chloride is sidewalk salt, or snow or ice salt. So Sean, it can impact pH. Really, it's just it doesn't leave enough room if you want to add a lot of other nutrients. Your salinity is already being dominated by that calcium chloride. So because you don't really ever want to go over, I think it's 4%, maybe. I don't want to get that number wrong and misquote the actual truth of it, but yeah. So how you doing? I was late on that when I tried the full auto. Didn't start feeding till the second week and only used about a week of final veg before flower. Still grew the biggest autos I've ever grown yet. Awesome. That's a good testimonial. Thank you. Yeah. So salinity is something to watch out for. You might see like a liquid organic calcium and you think, oh, great. It's liquid. It's organic. It's got to be, safe. Calcium chloride isn't. It is in the right amounts, but if I wanted to add 200 parts per million of calcium, we would have to calculate exactly how much salinity that would add to my solution. And is there room to add 200 parts per million of calcium nitrate also, and 200 parts per million of a phosphate salt? So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, the other options are things like calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is also known as gypsum, right? Calcium carbonate is gypsum. I think I'm getting that right. Calcium carbonate is a form of calcium that's attached to a carbonate molecule, or a carbonate. It's bonded with carbonate, and though that bond is not instantly broken when you put a calcium carbonate powder or a suspension, because there's no calcium carbonate solutions. There's calcium carbonate suspensions where that calcium is suspended in a liquid, and you add that to your nutrient solution. And let me turn that off. You add that to your nutrient solution, and you end up with calcium that will break down slowly over time. And the more microbial activity you have going on, the temperature, the pH, all of these things affect the mineralization rate of that calcium carbonate, but it is not the same as adding an equivalent amount of a liquid calcium nitrate, because that's instantly available. So you want to ensure that if you're using like a calcium carbonate product and you're going organic or something like that, you want to be aware that a certain percent of it will be available instantly, and then the rest of it's going to break down over time in your soil, especially if you're using like a powdered form of it, or micronized. So that is kind of just a way of looking at calcium and understanding, because Nova mentioned somebody mentioned not all calciums being the same. And yeah, that's important to cover. Not all nitrates into the same also. So something that I wanted to mention is something that we're going to be including in our organic nutrient line is a calcium carbonate. However, it's an amino acid chelated calcium carbonate. The amino acid is able to chelate the calcium carbonate molecules, making them more rapidly available to the plant. So the calcium that we use in our organic line is still calcium carbonate, still organic, still plant derived, but not as instantly available. It's not as slowly mineralizing as regular calcium carbonate. It is instantly available in a larger extent. There's still some that needs to break down, but it's more instantly available, significantly so. So Dead Folk is saying exactly, needs the systems and biology to break it down or ferment to have it right away. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing's gonna in your soil is going to break it down right away. If you have really nice biological activity occurring in your soil, you might have solubilizing bacteria that will mineralize your elements like calcium. Calcium carbonate. It'll break it down a little quicker. If your balance is right, your pH, if the mycorrhiza is having a good percentage of mycorrhiza in your root zone, and it has a good symbiotic relationship with your plant, and they're both healthy organisms, you're gonna mineralize your organic compounds in your soil into inorganic ions more quickly. Fun fact of the day: certain ions have a positive charge and certain have a negative. You've got cations are the positive, anions are the negative. And when we talk about a positive ion, like a calcium ion, we call it a calcium ion. When we talk about an ion that is negatively charged, like chlorine, we call it a chloride. It's chloride ion, not chlorine ion. Even though it's just a chlorine molecule with a negative charge, just like it's a calcium molecule with a positive charge, when you have a negatively charged ion, you add the ide to the end of the element, and that's how you designate something as an anion versus a cation. So if you hear somebody say chlorine ion, which I probably have in the past, that's not right. You say chloride ion. Any negatively charged particles are ide. You put ide at the end, which is, I thought, a little fun thing that you guys might remember. Okay, I have been ranting for a long time. I think we are going to have to do a part 2 on this because I did not even get to the fun part, which, let me switch to show you guys what I'm talking about here. So I've got your feeding schedule, your blah, 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 but I have got your recommended part per million inputs here. And this is for early veg, but we're going to go over early veg, early flower, late flower. We're going to go over the whole thing, and we're going to go over how to adjust your nutrients to get as close as possible to those numbers. Sometimes with a nutrient schedule or a nutrient program, you might not be able to combine these in a way where you can get, two of your nitrogen and phosphorus can be correct, but then your potassium's too low and you have nothing that you could add to it, to increase the potassium without increasing the phosphorus too much or increasing the nitrogen too much. You might have to go and get another product. You might have to go and get some, sulfate of potash and add that to your system so that you're increasing your potassium without increasing there's no other nutrients, other macronutrients tagging along. So we're going to go over how to, to start calculating that together to make a feeding schedule that matches. And remember, this is not for like top dress organic. This is for potassium silicate's another good one. Potassium silicate, you might end up overdoing it on the silicon depending on how much potassium you need to add. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up, and we're gonna make this. We're gonna do a part 2. So in part 2, we are going to talk about the ppm requirements and how we get to those. So there's 2 sides to ppms. There is the inputs, and then there is the content, the leaf tissue content. We do leaf tissue analysis, and I'm gonna be doing leaf tissue analysis with the plants in this tent. I'm going to take these over to the lab, which is don't live that far from it. They're going to run the plants through their, I think it's mass spectrometry or gas chromatography, I think maybe one of those two. They run the plants, the leaf material through their machines, and they tell me definitively you have 3.1% nitrogen. You have, 30 ppms of iron, whatever, they tell you exactly what's in there. And those numbers, there have been a ton of studies done to identify the proper amount that cannabis plants need in their leaf tissues. There is no arguing that. These are scientifically sound, proven, well, I know proven is a strong word, but it's like there's a ton of evidence for the fact that you want to have 3% nitrogen in early veg, and you want to up to 6% nitrogen or calcium at the highest point throughout your growth cycle. There's numbers that are inarguable, pretty much. Sufficiency ranges. There are universities testing fields of hemp, coming up with the same sufficiency ranges based on the highest possible yield outcome with various nutrient inputs and nutrient leaf tissue contents. So we're trying to achieve that identifiable, evidence-backed nutrient content for each of our micro and macronutrients in the leaves. The inputs to get there could be different. You could have autoflowers that are a heavier feeder. You could have an environment that's not conducive to adding enough, or not conducive to your plants absorbing enough of the nutrients, so you have to add more. Some strains might require more to get to those ideal sufficient numbers. There's a lot of different factors. For our genetics, we've dialed things in to those numbers that you saw earlier here, to these numbers that you are about to see. We've dialed it in, and we've been able to achieve the best possible leaf tissue content of these. And we have micronutrient. I just didn't put them down yet. We have micronutrient sufficiency ranges as well. And we've been able to maintain those sufficiency ranges by adding those ppms of those nutrients. And we calculate those ppms of those nutrients by doing exactly what I just did in front of you guys. That is agronomy. That's how agronomy works. It's part of it. It's how it works in all sorts of crops. There's a guy somewhere sitting at a desk, probably in front of a computer, looking at a farmer's information about his cornfield. Well, it's winter, so probably not happening right now. But whatever winter crop, squashes, they're looking at the inputs, they're looking at the application rates, and they're looking at the sufficiency ranges for winter squash and with all the different micro and macronutrients. That's what's done in every industry. And if you ever talk to an agronomist, they're going to refer to how much you feed your plants at where are you at? 200 parts per million of nitrogen? Because all the other balanced nutrients, there's a balance for that crop. So if you know the nitrogen, then you can identify what the other nutrients are just based on what the ideal balance is for that crop. So we refer to the strength of a nutrient program as parts per million of nitrogen. That's just the phrase that's used. So, that was a lot. Yeah, guys. Well, I'm exhausted now. I just did an hour on YouTube also. So on Facebook also. But yeah, I don't know where the metric for whispering sweet nothings to your plant is. This whole science thing is suspect. Guys, and that's the other thing. So doing organic top dress nutrients with a great living soil and all that stuff, to me, it's art. It's beautifully done by a lot of people, and it is artwork. Those plants come out beautiful. Sometimes they don't come out as large as salt plants. Sometimes they do. But those plants look great. Those plants are healthy by appearance. Everything about, I would love to take some leaf tissue analysis from some of these, a bunch of different living soil crops, and then take leaf tissue analysis from a bunch of different salt crops. And you can look at it. It doesn't lie. The leaf tissue analysis doesn't lie. So that is... It says, I love the hard facts. Just don't ask me to get in front of a screen with numbers, please. Thank God. I'll do that for you, and I'll give you the summary of it at the end. But guys, yeah, that's really where I'm just getting to is that's not the summary of it, but as what I was saying just a second ago is that organic nutrients like that's feeding style is artwork. This is science. This is that's working in the kitchen, add a little more onion, add a little more salt. This is baking. I'm making a souffle here. And if you add a half an egg too much, your fucking souffle is going to... So that's the difference, is like, and not necessarily because if you add too much of something, you might burn a little bit, but it's like, these are precise numbers that we have put hundreds of thousands of auto flowers through testing and nutrient programs and adjusting, and thousands of over 30,000 individual leaf tissue analysis tests through all across of all of our clients in the last 4 years. Sean, I realized, you know what, somebody told me, I'm not monetizing these videos, so I can cuss all the fuck I want. But yeah, we have done probably closer to 40,000 leaf tissue analysis, individual leaf tissue analysis results that we have in our database. We're probably at this point over 400,000 autoflower plants that we have data on, that on farms that we worked on, or our own farm. You know, we've probably done like 250,000 of those at least at I just said the actual name of the farm at Speedrun. So we have done the math. We have tested it. We know this shit with our genetics. So it's like, this is based on a lot of long and hard work, and commercial farms pay a lot of money for these numbers that I'm giving you guys. So I don't know how long I'm going to keep this video up now that I'm kind of thinking about it. I probably shouldn't be saying all this stuff, but yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I love what people do with organic, top-dressed nutrient soil. I'm just not your guy to walk you through every step of it and tell you the best, living soil to use. And I can give you a guy that is, go talk to Derek from Dream Beans. He's great at that. Artist when it comes to that stuff. And when it comes to, precisely knowing exactly how much calcium you need to feed your plants in order for you to get 4.2% calcium in the leaf tissue, let me know and I'll help you. So, all right, guys. Well, I got to call a man about a thing. Got to see a horse about a thing. So, any other questions? Anything else to... next month is not good enough. You got to do it tonight. No, I'm just messing with you. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to seeing you grow some stuff. Definitely post some pictures on the social medias once you get them. And farewell. Dead folk, thank you for all the engagement. You definitely helped move the conversation along and had some really good points. I appreciate it. Sean, you as well. Rob, thank you. And Nova, as always, you're the best. Yeah, guys, scrolling up to see who I forgot. But how you doing if you're still here? I love you guys. You're gonna see me next week. We're gonna continue this, and we're gonna finish out calculating nutrients for your grow, and we're gonna continue along with Flora series from General Hydroponics. But now that you guys know the formula, go get your nutrient line and do it along with me with your nutrient line. So I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody, and have a good week. I'll be around.